Up. Been a couple weeks since I put up a video for you. I'm balls to the wall as usual. I just got done running up to the road. Fella pulled in the driveway and said, "Hey, could you come help us real quick? You got all these big army trucks, and we got a log truck that tried to make the turn up here to the next road and ran off the road and got stuck in the ditch. He's blocking the whole highway." Of course, you know, I don't have anything better to do. I'll just jump in my old trusty rusty old M936A2 over there and run up and pull him out. So I did, and wrapped the chain around one of the arms on the trailer near the kingpin because he didn't have a pintle or anything else on the back of the truck to hook to, and put it in drive, and he came right out way easier than I thought he would. So that's why I'm sweaty and a little bit out of breath right now. Anyway, this is the project we're working on now. This is a 1997 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and like I told you before, not all that I work on is military vehicles. Yes, shop's still a disaster. It's probably going to be that way until I absolutely can't find any of my shit, and then I'll get fed up with it and I'll throw a bunch of stuff away and clean it all up. But this belongs to a 17-year-old recent high school graduate. I'm just going to call him Little Gary because his name is Gary, and he's a little fella, and his father is also named Gary, so that's Big Gary. Little Gary paid $500 for this thing, and it's a four-wheel drive, which is good. It's his first four-wheel drive. The motor is locked up. The transmission was out, which is laying over there. It was in the back of the vehicle. And the transfer case, NP242J, the case is shattered. It had already been re-welded once and just continued cracking, so he got another one of those, and he got this used takeout motor, which I can tell was in a wreck because the alternator bracket's busted off and the distributor cap is destroyed, and etc., etc. Anyway, that's all stuff we can take off the old motor. So I just gotten home from Baton Rouge helping my grandparents with that over there, cleaning up all that mess and trying to sell some stuff for them and get things cleaned up. And we're not even close to being done, but I've been away from home for 2 or 3 weeks, and actually 3 weeks, and I've only been home a day in between that, which is when I posted my last video. So it's time to come home, time to do some things. So I get home, and about 2 days later, well, a couple days ago, Little Gary calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I got this Jeep, I got this other Jeep, I got this motor and this transmission and this transfer case, and I want to make one good Jeep out of it." There's the other Jeep. It's a 2-wheel drive parts Jeep, but it's got a blown head gasket. It still runs, but I mean, the only thing you can use off of it is the headlights, which is a good thing because these were like melted and full of water and shit. So I said, "Yeah, sure, you know." I remember what it was like being a kid working on my first Jeep, which was an XJ Cherokee, not a Grand Cherokee ZJ. And I didn't have anybody with a shop that helped me. You know, I didn't have, I worked in the driveway at Dad's house most of the time on it. But I didn't have anybody with a shop and nice tools and air compressor and the know-how to actually point out everything you need to do on these Jeeps. And long before I got into the military vehicles, I was a Jeep guy. Any of you who know me personally know that I've always had Jeep Cherokees and stuff. And while this is a Grand Cherokee, it's very, very similar to an XJ Cherokee. Enough so that there's nothing that I don't know what I'm doing on here. So I say, "Yeah, you know, bring him over, no problem." Well, I go over and help him, and he's got this car trailer that he borrowed, and one of the tires is flat. And I get over there and I'm like, "Hey, your tire's flat." And he's like, "Oh, I gotta do something about that." And he's like, "How are we gonna get this thing on the trailer?" I'm like, "You don't have a winch?" It's like, "I don't have a winch. Do you have a come along?" "I'm not come alonging a vehicle onto a trailer. That's bullshit. This is not 1960 anymore. We don't do that. We use winches." So I came back and I got the Dodge with a 12,000-pound winch on the front and a snatch block, and went back and we loaded it up onto the trailer. easy as pie. I brought it over here and unloaded it and pushed it in here with the Dodge. And then he brought the motor and transmission. And I guess in about 2 hours, 3 hours, we've gotten everything ready to come out except the 2 motor mount bolts, and the starter needs to come off of it. But he had to take the trailer that he borrowed home, and he's being responsible. He's doing what he was asked. And that's why I don't mind helping little Gary, because he kind of reminds me of me, and I wish I had had the kind of help that I can provide him when I was his age. You know, he told me that for helping him, I can have what's left of the 2-wheel drive Jeep, and he's going to bring me the title signed. It was given to him, so he's not out anything. And it does run. He pulled it onto the trailer, brought it here, and backed it off the trailer today. It's just got a bad miss because the head gasket's blown and it's got water in the oil. So I don't know what I'll do with it. I might fix it and drive it, or I might make a trail Jeep out of it someday. I don't know. I may not do anything with it. But that's what we're working on now. We're doing a 4-liter swap, which is it's actually easier. It's more involved but less heavy lifting than a multi-fuel swap or a Humvee engine swap, just because everything's lighter and it's civilian, you know, so no big deal. But there's a lot more like wire connections, of course, and all. It's all electronic, fuel injected, which is good. But you know, poor Gary, he's clueless. I mean, he knows how to turn a ratchet, and he knows, you know, the difference between metric and standard tools and all, but he's in that stage of his life where he's learning. And this is, when I was doing this is where I learned most of the stuff, you know. I guess I call it a good foundation starts when you're younger like this, when you're having to do things like this for yourself when you're younger, and you're doing it because you have to, not because you feel like it, and you can just stop halfway through and it doesn't matter if you don't finish it. You learn better when you have to do something for yourself. So I'm not giving him a hard time. I'm walking him through everything he needs to do. I'm showing him the proper tools he needs to use. It's hot as hell out here. I've been sweating my balls off all day helping the kid, but I'm having fun with it because I know I'm doing a good quality young man, a good service that will carry him a long way through life. And I feel good about it. So anyway, I'll get back to you. I don't know if we're going to make another video tomorrow. Little Gary doesn't even know I'm making this video. Yeah, he'd probably think it was weird or whatever, but I really don't care. I may post up a video in between now and when it first runs. I may not. And see what I was talking about, little stuff like this, like you can just pull the power steering pump off and lay it to the side instead of disconnecting it. And the same with the AC system, you can just lay the compressor to the side instead of purging the system and all that. That's stuff that nobody ever taught me. I had to learn that myself, and it's saving him a working air conditioning system because there's still Freon in it, and money and time having to bleed and replace the fluid in the power steering system. But anyway, I'll at least make a video when we fire it up for you guys. I know this isn't my normal thing. I guess that's a theme here lately, is doing things that I don't usually do on my YouTube channel. But hey, stay tuned. We'll see what we can do on the next one. If it's the same thing running, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, we'll catch you guys later. Thanks.